everybody, it's Eric live alongside Rod to talk about MSU's 83-66 win in its Champions Classic matchup against Kentucky at Madison Square Garden tonight. Thanks for joining us on the live feed. Feel free to comment. Please drop in the comments where you're watching from. Super chats are open. We're obviously at a mobile studio somewhere in a secret location in the state of New York.
Westchester County.
Westchester County. I guess you'd be more specific. We took the train and we decided to skip the second game to catch start this up, and because it took a while to get here, obviously. So before we start, a quick note about Spotify. For those of you who listen on the audio version of the podcast, you may have noticed the last three episodes were missing. I think the problem has been resolved. It should be there. If the back three are not there, try and find some other way to listen to them. Basically just our pregame for Kentucky, and then obviously talking about Ethan Taylor's recruitment. So if there's ever a problem and you've noticed something, please feel free to email me at eric@tffinots.com. Notify me. All right, well, Rod, let's talk about this fantastic game, the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. Michigan State got its first win in the Champions Classic at the MSG, and perhaps more importantly, the live in-person curse of us attending Michigan State games, road games together, has been broken. So this was a game that Michigan State almost led wire to wire. I mean, after going down early, the Spartans took control of the game.
6-5, I think it was it. 5-0 Kentucky, and then they led 5-3, and I think that was it.
Yeah, it's kind of close for a little while, but for the most part, it wasn't too bad. 44-27 lead at halftime, pretty much was it. And then the second half was pretty low stress. There were a couple to moments when Kentucky got cut to 10, but for the most part, it was not really that hard. So I don't know where you want to start. We can certainly start anywhere as far as the performance. We're just going to be talking about overall before we go into this individual.
We'll start with the fact that our jinx is broken, so that's a good sign. We can feel free to do this again. But on a serious note, that was, I've already said this to a couple of people after the game, it's certainly not the most important Michigan State victory I've ever witnessed, far from it. But it's up there for the most satisfying experiences because of who they beat. And we don't know how good this Kentucky team is or isn't going to be.
Just like Arkansas, right?
Yeah. But safe to say that it'd be shocking if they weren't an NCAA tournament team. And I think because the SEC has had almost everybody take losses, maybe not Tennessee, but, I still think it's entirely possible, especially when they were missing a couple guys tonight, in fairness. Let's acknowledge that. But if I don't know if they're going to get their point guard back from what I see, but whatever. That's a team that could still very well be an SEC contender. And for Michigan State to do it that comprehensively, like you said, really from about whenever they pushed it out to double digits in the first half. So maybe I don't know, I'm guessing here. I haven't gone back and looked at the transcript, but maybe the 7-minute mark or so.
Yeah. That's what I think we noticed it anyway. It's like, look up there. It's like
they pushed it out
a dozen points.
And then there was one time it got to 10 in the second half. And I think that was the thing that I really liked. In a game you win by this much, oftentimes you say, well, it's great. You played great, whatever. But did you really, beyond a certain point, did you learn anything? The thing about Michigan State tonight is they did have that moment in the second half when Kentucky made their push, hit a couple threes, got it down to 10, and then Michigan State gave them the Heisman. That was great to see. Such a good sign. When you have a team just put a little bit of game pressure, Michigan State, frankly, they were one possession away from that becoming,
stressful. I think it was a bad turnover.
If they had but if they had at 10, if they had missed or turned it over and Kentucky had come down and scored again and got single digits, you and I were there, so we know this. I don't know how well it came across on TV. Kentucky's turnout was insane.
Yeah.
Not a shocker, but I think the level of the discrepancy was surprising.
There's a lot of
because I have not been to a game at one of these games at MSG. I've been to them at the United Center, and there, obviously, proximity being part of it, it's a different story. This was overwhelming. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say 20-1.
It felt like
Kentucky to Michigan State.
Yeah, and it wasn't Duke blue because they weren't there.
Right.
Oh yeah,
right.
Kansas.
But other than the first 2 minutes of the game, the Kentucky fans were largely shut down.
Yeah.
And when they got it to 10, you started to hear them stir. And it felt like we're one more Kentucky score away from having a game. And that was about the 10-minute or 9-minute mark.
Mhm.
We hadn't gotten to the under 8 timeout. And it felt like it was sitting there like it was at a point, inflection point. Is this going to be a competitive game at the end, or is Michigan State going to control it?
Mhm.
And Michigan State's answer was, you're done.
Sorry.
Take a seat. And that was fantastic to see. I think that, we'll talk about the individuals, obviously, as we go through it, but just from a team perspective, the thing I loved was that you had everything that Michigan State basketball was about in this game. You had the energy, the effort, the toughness, all those things, as exhibited by the way they rebounded, at times the way they defended, but mixed with phenomenal skill play.
Yeah.
We all know the shooting stories. And to see that was, there were points that we were just laughing to watching the game, because you've seen, and I'm not saying I think this is who Michigan State is as a shooting team, but I also don't think they were the team we saw the first 3 games. I would like to believe that what we will settle into is somewhere in that big, big, big ocean of gap between the two. But what it should do is it should give confidence. Eric and I were talking about this on the walk back to the train.
We had a lot of walking today. In York.
The guys who hit shots are the guys who have to hit shots,
right,
and who all really needed to continue to build confidence, and to see them all performing. Kurt Tang, Trey Ford, Jackson Kohler, Jesse McCullough.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal. So from a team perspective, those were the things in a very overarching sense that I really liked. And honestly, I picked them number 2 in the league in the preseason. So I was bullish on what this team could be. I don't know if I expected them to be at quite this level this early, but I'm very delighted that they are.
Mm-hmm.
That Michigan State team absolutely can stand toe-to-toe with Purdue. Doesn't mean I think they're going to go into Mackey and win, but I'm talking about overall in the Big Ten. They can stand, and if you can stand toe-to-toe with that Purdue team, you can stand toe-to-toe with any team in the country, in my opinion, because I think Purdue is the best team in the country. And then certainly the way they played against Alabama the other night confirmed that for me. Now they're back at full strength with Hoffman Wren back in the lineup. They are. But this Michigan State team, the one we saw tonight, absolutely. Yeah. Why would they not be able to hang with Purdue? They have everything that they need. Now, are we going to get that? It's a long season. We all know this. There's going to be ebb and flow. There's got to be ups and downs. But I think the thing you really had to like about tonight from the MSU side, or many things, I guess, is that every single guy that saw the floor contributed. Denham Wojcik had a great assist tonight. So it went 11 deep of guys that did something. Jordan Scott with defensive plays or offensive rebound. Cam Ward turned it up late and ended up with some really solid production numbers. Jesse McCullough, easily his best game. I can't believe he only played 9 minutes. I'm looking at the box score. I would have thought it was closer to double that.
Is that
only played 9 minutes? I almost think that's a mistake because of how impactful he was when he was out there. Kurt Tang, obviously, we all know. We'll go through all these guys, but just suffice it to say, every single guy that saw the floor in the regular rotation for MSU, so we'll make it 11, including Denham, did something positive in this one. And you don't see that very often, and not in a game like this. I think there's zero reason to be anything but extremely excited, extremely optimistic, and very happy with this Michigan State team.
Right. And we were talking before about the fact that you look at these 4 games, we'll call them 4 big games, non-conference. You've got Arkansas, Kentucky, the SEC games. You've got Duke and North Carolina.
It just means more, right?
Right. Well, now Michigan State's taken 2 of the 4 already, right. And you kind of figure you can split them or whatever. It's a pretty good season. Well, let's start.
And I want to point you out
just
a real quick more because this is something else you and I talked about on the walkover. We did have a lot of time. I saw a stat that John Fanta posted that the Big Ten right now, as a league, is 12-4 against other high major opponents. That is a great start. And Michigan State with 2 top 15 wins, one of only 2 teams in the country that has that thus far. top 15 teams at the time.
At the time they played, yeah. Right.
I don't know who the other team is. I guess I'd have to look, but MSU was one of them. They're certainly
Arizona probably.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, probably.
Yes, it's my guess.
I think you're probably right. But here's the thing: we're basically about 2 weeks out from things kind of being baked in terms of strength of schedule vis-a-vis how the conferences are viewed.
Mhm.
So as long as the Big Ten continues to do what it's been doing over the next couple of weeks, and we get through like the first week in December, yeah, there will be a smattering of games after that with implications, but for the most part, it's baked in by that point, you know, and this year's no different. And so Michigan State is doing a lot of work to help make that situation very, very good for the league, but the league as a whole is as well. What it means is, I always used to say, and this is true probably 9 years out of 10, if you're in the Big Ten, you're Michigan State, your seeding will take care of itself based on what you do in the league. You don't need to worry about a slip up here or there in the non-conference. If you take care of business in the league, you can still get a 1 seed. That is very definitely the picture, not just for Michigan State, for everybody in the league, but definitely for Michigan State as well. If they take care of business in the league, on top of what they've already done and the opportunities that are still there in the non-conference, you're now in a position where you can start thinking very, very happy thoughts about what March might look like from a seeding perspective.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not everything, but I think it's worth mentioning.
Well, and we're certainly going to talk to Don about this later Thursday, and
Yeah.
it makes you wonder. I mean, if you get real greedy and you say Michigan State runs the table and you beats Duke, beats North Carolina, and let's say goes undefeated in the non-conference, which is not impossible to imagine. You're
Right.
through half the hard games right now.
I think it's very possible based on what we've seen.
And so if that happens, and Purdue's going to steamroll people like they've been doing, it's not unreasonable to imagine you have 2 number 1 seeds in the Big Ten. So
the Big Ten is shaping up, I think. I don't know if we'll be talking about it quite the ridiculous level the SEC was talked about last year.
Well, maybe.
But-
I don't know.
But
There's no
there's certainly precedent. There's certainly lots and lots of precedent for 2-1 seeds out of the same league.
Sure.
We've seen it many times.
Kev JN 8216 is a Boiler fan. It's a great win. They're going to give the Boilers problems, and it's love seeing the Big Ten win non-conference games. To that point, right? It's going to help. If you're a team that's
Everybody, look, Purdue did Michigan State a favor by going down to Alabama.
absolutely.
When you're, and that's part of that, of course, we're as fans, we're talking with confidence because we feel like our team now has shown they're going to be at a point where this is probably going to matter.
Yeah.
There'll be things at stake, and Purdue certainly is at that point. I have the utmost respect, year to year, always for that program. But this year's team in particular, I think might be the best Matt Painter's had, top to bottom.
Yeah.
They don't have an Edie. They don't have that, Death Star player, but it's a great team. But Michigan State's in a position, and maybe this is what you were getting at. If you're Michigan State, maybe the job everybody in the league is doing and the job Michigan State is doing is such that you can look at the schedule and say, yeah, we've got that automatic L at Mackey or near automatic L. But it might not matter in terms of getting a 1 seed or a high seed,
Yeah.
And that's a great space to be in at this absurdly early season. But we've got this league is just, Illinois, granted at home, but took care of Texas Tech. I mean, there are some marquee wins this league has notched already. Yeah. And more to come.
And I think, the team that's going to be most thankful for these wins for Purdue and Michigan State are actually like the teams like Nebraska or
Washington, USC.
Teams that might be whoever ends with the ball at the end. We don't know who that is.
Yes.
Obviously, it's still early.
Yes.
But those are the teams that are going to benefit most. That's just like the
Michigan.
SEC. Someone gets pulled into the NCAA tournament. Who may not.
Kidding. I'm not ready to put them there yet.
They are undefeated.
Not
right?
yet. Not yet. Yeah,
All right. So let's talk about some individual performers. Well, I guess we should probably start with Jeremy Fears.
Yeah.
He had a decent game. So he had 8 points. He was 2 for 3 from the field. Only 3 shots. Hit all 4 of his free throws. He had 6 defensive rebounds. He only had 13 assists, 2 turnovers, and 3 steals. Played 31 minutes. He sat for probably, and aside from not even talking about Fears for a second, he sat probably 6 minutes of let's say 4 or 5 minutes of the back end of that first half,
Yeah.
which really allowed a lot of opportunity for him to rest so he could play most of the second, which they needed him a little bit more in the second. And they managed to hold that lead, maybe and extend a little bit, I think, because I think it was like 13 or something. Anyway, but his performance, I turned to you and I said he was okay in the first half. Second half, he was lights out. He was so
Dominant.
Yeah, he was so good.
Dominant. Look, I've talked about Jeremy Fears for a long time, it feels like, back to when he was a junior in high school and he committed to MSU. And my belief has been from that point, this is the guy who shares more traits with Mateen Cleaves than anybody Tom Izzo's had. Tom Izzo's had some great leaders at point guard. He's had some great players at point guard in the decades since then. He has never had somebody who embodies everything the program is about to the level of Jeremy Fears. And I do think that's why I have confidence that they've got this thing right. That doesn't mean I think they're going to win the national title this year. I'd love them to. You don't rule it out, not yet, but they're not the favorite, right? But I think they're going to have chances before Jeremy Fears is done. I really believe that. I believe that as thoroughly as I did during Mateen Cleaves' sophomore year. Once they got to conference play, and you could see, oh, this thing's turned around.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Michigan State didn't need turning around at this point. A great year last year, they're building on. But what you are seeing is Jeremy Fears last year, I think, had a pretty good season for a first year of actually playing. Did a lot of things well. I don't think it was an accident. Michigan State succeeded the way they did with him as a starter at that position. But this is another level. We are seeing he is leading the country in assists right now. He came in averaging 9.3. He had 13 tonight, 2 turnovers.
Yeah.
Played an unbelievably efficient game offensively. I mean, just unbelievable. Controlled it.
Right.
And we're going to get to this in the keys.
Yeah, right.
I feel very, very good about identifying that point guard play.
I think so.
As key, because it had a huge impact on this game. One team had Jeremy Fears, the other team didn't. The team of Jeremy Fears won decisively.
Yeah.
Not an accident. And then you look at, in the second half especially, the defensive plays he made, which they're kind of almost like, if you remember the big play he made in the Ole Miss game, although that one came at half.
Yeah, jumped up. Yeah.
And led to a Cohen card that kind of turned the tide for good in that game. They were somewhat similar to that, with him leaping to pick off a pad, except they all occurred, I think all three occurred in Kentucky's forecourt. So Michigan State's defending their goal. And Jeremy made 3 of them in the second half. He, I think, completely, I'll quote Mark Pope, or I'll paraphrase him, I think he completely discombobulated Aberdeen, which I kind of saw coming. I thought could happen. It did. He just does it baiting guys into fouls, getting under the other team's skin. And that stuff would all be sideshow shit if he didn't do the actual quantifiable things in the game that you see that lead to winning. Mm-hmm. Running your offense, making plays for everybody, being efficient with your own offense. 2 for 3 from the floor. Didn't take many shots, 67%. Nailed his 2 free throw opportunities, 4 shots, but 2 chances. And again, stellar defensive plays. And 6 rebounds to boot for a 6'1" guy. Smallest guy on the floor pretty much most of the game, almost all of it.
Yeah. I think,
he is rapidly, the Big Ten, and I'll stop
with
this. The Big Ten has a boatload of great point guards this year. I mean, you start with Braden Smith and you go from there. Bruce Thornton looks like he's ready to have a monster senior year. The Dent kid at UCLA, we saw with New Mexico last year. He's a very, very good player.
Starts at Iowa.
Starts at Iowa is great, and people don't even really know him yet. Boswell at Illinois is off to a great start. On and on. Yeah. I'm not going to mention Elliot Cadeau because he had a good start, but that's number 2.
Who's he playing?
Second shot.
Yeah, right.
But right now, take Braden Smith out of the equation because he's who he is.
Yeah.
He's earned that respect. But you trading anybody? I'm not for Michigan State.
Right. Yeah.
Not for Michigan State.
For what they need, what they ask. Yeah.
And what this program's about and what he's about and what they need, yeah, not trading him for anybody. And when you got a guy like that leading your team, look out, Big Ten, look out, NCAA, because I've seen this movie before. And the last time it ended in a national title. It is not hyperbole to talk about him. I'm not saying I'm convinced that the overall career, because Mateen Cleaves won 2 Big Ten Player of the Years.
Yeah.
He was a 3-time All-American. Tall order, okay? Jeremy Fears probably isn't going to do those things, but as presence and what I think he means to be able to, if you have those goals, to be a team that has a chance to win the whole thing, to really win it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right there.
I think it's real important too, the fact that you can physically, he's back. Like I think those plays in the second
100%.
half,
yes.
I don't think he's making those plays last year.
Athletic.
And
You
I
see
don't
the
think I
difference.
appreciated it that much last year, but I think
I
now-
didn't.
But now you.
And I listened to Izzo over the offseason talk about it. I said, really? He's gained another 5
Yeah,
inches in his vertical? I thought he was jumping pretty well last year.
Yeah. No,
Because I thought he was underrated as an athlete when he was in high school before that incident. And I thought last year, well, he kind of looks, I thought he looked roughly the same. No, we're seeing the difference.
Yeah. We're seeing that. This is the epic plays that he's making.
Yeah.
All right. So next, we're going to go through everybody because they're having a great game. So Jackson Kohler, 20 points, 8 for 12 from the field, missed a couple bunnies, 2 for 2 from 3, 2 hit both his free throws, big free throws too, because it was a 10-point game.
Yep.
One
was part of that.
1-1. He
Heisman.
got it up to 12, and that sort of was the end of
Yeah.
the game there. He only had 5 rebounds. One of them offensive, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, a block, 27 minutes. He was very good defensively. I mean, I think he is what he is defensively, but he made a couple of mistakes a little bit, but
Function.
not like you're not losing much. You're gaining way more than you're losing, especially putting up numbers like that on the offensive end and defensively rebounding too.
Just, it's crazy when you look at a 5 rebound night and he's, wow, it's kind of a letdown. That's the standard he's establishing this year. I mean, he came in 3rd in the country in rebounding per game average. Just crazy. But, Michigan State had a lot of balance. You and I talked about that also on that one. A lot of balance in terms of their rebounding as a team. So it wasn't the typical equation of, well, Jackson's grabbing everything there is out there and everybody else is left to fend for scraps. But the overall game, especially obviously offensively leading the way with 20 points, it was really impressive. And look, this guy, I don't think it's hyperbolic. Right now, he is doing the things that you would do if you were saying, draw me up a season where a big man can be a first-team All-Big Ten player. He's doing those kind of things. Now, the team probably has to have big major success in order to do that. But the kind of season he's having, he's still having a double-double after tonight. How can you say he's not among the better players in this league? As good as this league is, as deep as it is, Jackson Kohler right now, because of what he's doing individually and then what his team is doing on top of that, you would be hard-pressed to draw up a better start for his senior year than the one he's had overall. That doesn't mean it's been perfect. His coach certainly would say it hasn't been perfect. I know that. But, man, those of us who aren't his coach and aren't charged with trying to get him better every day, I think can step back and admire it a little bit and say he is now finally as a senior doing the kind of things that I thought were possible when they recruited him.
Yeah.
When they got him. And it's been an uneven kind of deal because of injuries, because he needed to improve his body. I mean, a lot of different things. But you're seeing that product now kind of finally gotten to where we thought it could get to.
All right, so let's talk about Trey Ford. He's starting at the 2. And this has been, the first game was Kurt Tang started and Trey Ford started the 3 games since. He ended with 13 points, 5 of 12 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3, a couple defensive rebounds. He had assists to turnover, played 18 minutes. So solid performance. I mean, I think, and then we'll talk about Kurt Tang next, but definitely these 2 players are to the point now where, I mean, you're getting kind of whatever you need out of them, and but you can, if there's a mistake, a correction needs to be made, you can pull them for the other player, and not feel like you're losing a whole lot going into
In this game, you did. I thought, the thing I really like about Trey, and it's probably going to be a little bit maddening on occasion to the Michigan State staff, but he has so much confidence in his offensive game that he will take some shots at times. You're like,
yeah,
not really a good Michigan State shot, but I'm just speaking for myself. Tom Izzo may very well feel differently. I would refer to that, but for myself, I'm okay with that because there are times when you're going to need somebody to say, I'm just going to go make a play. And I know this about Trey Fort. I don't know he's going to hit every shot he takes, but I know he feels good about every one he takes. And that's okay. And I thought tonight, he played very well. 3 for 8 from 3, exactly what they need. I'm okay with 8 attempts. I'm okay that a couple of them maybe weren't perfectly ideal shots. We can live with them. Because I also think he's a guy that can occasionally hit some of those shots. And sometimes, the no, yes thing is okay. But very happy with him. And again, and you would say this about everybody, Michigan State tonight. I don't think they pitched a perfect game defensively by any stretch, but I thought they played well. And I would bet, we were talking about it in the first half especially, I thought Kentucky got some good looks from deep. Mm-hmm. They hit Michigan State with a couple of back cuts early, and then Michigan State started to handle that better, I thought. But they got a lot of open looks that they didn't hit, and they had a terrible night shooting 3 overall, whole game.
Yeah.
But honestly, when you looked at Kentucky as a shooting team, other than one guy, kind of who they've been. They weren't, if you took the one kid, what's his name? Was it Chandler?
Chandler. Well,
Chandler. If you took him out of the equation, which I understand you can't do that, he's part of their team. But if you took him out of the equation and you totaled everybody else up, they're shooting about what Michigan State has been shooting.
Yeah.
So, I don't think they wanted to give Chandler open looks, but everybody else. And so I'm assuming that was somewhere in there part of the defensive game plan that, hey, we're more concerned about these guards getting into the paint and making things happen, as opposed to let them take threes where the ball just kind of stays on the perimeter. And if it happens to be open, we're not going to try to give them an open shot, but we'll live with it because we're trying to take away other things. And so, given all of that, I'm reasonably happy with the defense that Michigan State played, and Trey was part of that. He's still, at this point, we're 4 games in. The extreme concerns about him, I think, probably need to get tabled. I don't think he's a guy, at least not yet. We'll see about Big Ten coaches attacking him, but at least as of right now, I don't feel that there's been anything that says, wow, this guy's a major liability out there, which was the concern early. I think that's gone.
Yeah. I think when we look at their defense, it's really, considering only 4 games of the season, it's pretty good right now. 4 games in. I think farther along than sometimes they are other seasons. So then let's look at Carson Cooper. So Carson had kind of an interesting game. He only finished with 2 points. He's 1 for 7 in the field. He must have had about 4 blocks. He had some dunks that were blocked, and he really struggled out there. Missed his 1-3, which was a hand grenade shot that didn't really count. 6 rebounds, 2 of them offensive, which I think were on the same possession based on this really lousy shot that he had. A couple assists, no turnovers, had a block of his own, 23 minutes. But I think played really good, solid defense. He was, offensively was not impactful, but defensively, I think he was definitely good.
It was a solid game overall. Not great, but solid. I thought, defensively he held up. Kentucky wasn't as dangerous in the pick and roll as, say, Arkansas was. So I think his role defensively was not as significant. Mm-hmm. But, Kentucky still, they might be down one big kid, but they still got bigs, a lot of talent, a lot of experience. Yeah. Don't let the Jamie Shaws of the world tell you.
Well, and I think, one good exhibit of Cooper's really good play defensively is where they got that crazy switch. Fears is down low in the paint.
Yes.
Cooper's out and I can't remember who it was. Was it Owe? Who was
yes.
And instead of passing to the guy, I don't remember who it was.
I think it was Garrison.
Garrison was inside, got 6 inches or whatever on Fears. He tries to take Cooper, and Cooper basically stops him because he's got some height and he's moving. He's got long arms and stuff. He's disrupted things.
It was, I said to you, I said, I could not believe how selfish of a play that was. So most of it is on, but the reason that most of it is Kue is that I guess he might think, well, I got a 6'11" guy matched up.
Right.
I can take him. Well, not if the 6'11" guy's Carson Cooper,
Yeah.
because he can guard you.
Isn't that Caleb Swanigan where he can't come out to you and catch it? Right. Yeah. Right.
He can guard you.
Yeah.
And he did, as you said. That was a big play. But although I give Coop a lot of credit, but I know Coop can do that. That's not a surprise. It was just unbelievably selfish to me when you got a 6'10" guy being covered by Jeremy Fears in the post, and all you got to do is lob it.
Yeah.
And you got a layup or a dunk, and you don't do it. That's, in a nutshell, that's probably a lot of what's wrong with Kentucky right now.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway.
Well, let's move away from the starters and we'll go to the number 2, and the 2 spot is Kurtang, who I think this is this has got to be his breakout game for the season right now. He's 15 points, 6 for 12 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3. He had a rebound, only 1, but he was active.
It was a great offensive rebound.
A couple of assists and steal. When that kind of big steal, I think.
It was a defensive rebound. I thought
defensive, yeah. Well, he had the one where he shot it and he kind of bounced off his hands to Kohler underneath.
Yeah.
So he's Kohler Cooper, I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
And so they got, I think, a quick layup or something that way.
But a great pass for a transition.
But he looked. We were talking about game. So defensively, he looked more like he knew what he's doing, and offensively, he looked comfortable. Like he was coming off screens, like he was confident, like he had a purpose. Like sometimes you see guys come around screens and they just come around the screen. He's coming around looking to score or make a move or cause some sort of advantage to the offense.
And I want to give credit, as I find myself often doing here, to Jim Comparoni at Spartan Mag, because he had a comment early this year before the game started, before the exhibition started. He was talking about observations in practice. He said he couldn't go into a lot of detail, but it's something he was seeing. He was talking in general terms about a quick release that Kurtang has and how effective he is with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think you saw that tonight. Well, not entirely just that. He did other things too, which I'll mention, but his release is so quick coming off those screens that you can't do anything with it. It makes it extremely difficult for him to be challenged. That is a weapon when he's dialed in. And we're now 4 games in. I didn't look what his seasonal 3-point shooting percentage is, but it's got to be pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll check it out.
With 3 for 7 tonight added to what he had done to date, I've got to think he's knocking on the door 50%, if not over. So he's doing kind of what you thought. I mean, the way we've got here has been a little bit of a path to be traveled. But I think at this point, you'd have to say, well, you're getting what you expected out of him. I think the other thing that was great about him tonight was to see the times he didn't settle for what would have been a rushed 3 under duress.
Yeah.
Pump faked, took another step or 2, and drilled a 2. Very mature offensive game from him. I was impressed. I mean, how could you not be impressed? He hit big shots. I thought he had a knack tonight for hitting momentum shots. Big, they were impactful, pushing the lead out, or just getting Michigan State in a, having those moments where if you're Kentucky, you're sighing.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go again. If you're Michigan State, you're like, I mean, when there was that run, Kentucky had gotten it down to 10, and then Michigan State started pushing it out again, and he hit. I don't know if it was back-to-back threes, but it was 2 threes in that segment that took it from 10 to 19.
Yeah. And he had the 2 right at the end of the first half as well, where he's falling out of bounds, the shot clock.
Well, that was 2. Yeah,
that was 2, but that's a great play.
Huge shot.
Yeah. 4 for 10, by the way, in the season. So he's 40% from 3.
4 for 10
for the season
coming into tonight.
So now he's
now he's 7 for 17. So he's well above 40.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
he's doing
that was what you said earlier. He's got hit shots. Otherwise, why is on the floor? Well, now he's hitting
right.
shots.
But I think what you mentioned about the way he's coming off screens and how much more comfortable he looked, I think that applied to his whole game. Again, he doesn't have to be a lockdown defender.
Right.
He's got to be functional.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he looked functional against a team that's got some horsepower. So, I'm not ready to change the entire view on Kurt. I think it's still, he's going to continue to get opportunities. And when he's not a lock, he's not a guy that you look at, like say a Jaden Akins last year, he was just really struggling shooting, but you knew you're never going to take him out of the lineup,
Right,
because
yeah.
it will reduce his minutes significantly. Because one, you believe he can get back on track any day, and two, he's doing too much otherwise. That's not where Kerr is. Kerr is in a position because there are two other guys who can play that position too, in Trey Fort and Jordan Scott. And so Kerr's got to play well to get minutes. He played extremely well tonight. He got 18 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
When that happens, that's what you're going to see.
Yeah, they both got exactly 18 minutes. It's interesting, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
When he struggles, might not be as many minutes. And I think we're still in that spot. But it is fantastic to see him have a game like this. Anytime you have a game like this against an opponent like this on a stage like this one in that setting, that has ramifications that go way beyond just, it's not like he scored 15 points against South Directional Tech State.
Right. Yeah.
This is big.
It's like Cam Ward's performance against
Yes,
Arkansas, right?
against
Cam
Arkansas,
Ward has
right.
a great breakout game. He's got confidence
You
now.
have that belief.
Whenever you put him back in the game.
And that belief is going to manifest, I think, in more than just his shooting.
Speaking of
I really
Cam
do
Ward,
believe that.
8 points for Cam Ward, 4 for 6 from the field. Not a ton of minutes. Well, 17 minutes. So actually he was out there quite a bit. 4 rebounds, 2 of them offensive.
Should have had
had a
3.
steal.
He got a horrendous call. I'll give credit to
the
a
one
Michigan
where he-
guy.
Where he
Yeah,
ripped out.
right.
Yeah.
Cam Ward got called for a foul for being too tough. And it was true. That was a terrible call. We could see it live from the upper deck. It was terrible. And then the replays confirmed it. What an awful call. But yeah, look, what we haven't seen the last couple of games that I want to see them get back to against U of D is I want to see more Cam Ward post-ups.
Yeah, he was a little bit floating around the outside.
Yeah.
Today.
I want to see more of him on the block because he was so effective against Arkansas. And I think having that additional guy who can do that, and he can, if he could do it against Arkansas, he can do it against anybody.
Yeah.
I think that will pay dividends for him and for Michigan State. But look, overall, I'm not going to complain about his game. He was the Cam Ward we've come to expect. He was tougher than anybody else. He was fired up. He was playing with emotion. And I think for a freshman continues to just impress.
And then Jordan Scott, he had at one point just had his split of 3 throws, 3 rebounds, 2 of them offensive. Had had a couple turnovers, an assist, a block, 12 minutes. But he was solid there. It was not a game where you really noticed him, but he didn't.
But he played well defensively,
Yeah.
which he's pretty consistently doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think 3 rebounds, 2 offensive. And he had a couple.
One late was important too.
Yeah, I'm happy with what he did. I mean, look, we know, because again, we saw it in the Arkansas game. Jordan Scott, I think, is capable of doing some big things, and I think he's going to this year. And there are going to be games, I'm pretty certain, where Jordan Scott is the answer at that spot as opposed to Kerr Tang or Trey Fort. I think that will happen because he gives you a different element. He's significantly bigger than those 2 guys. I think he's better defensively already. Probably more of a rebounding presence, in part because of his size and length. But you saw those things show up a bit tonight. There will be games where they will show up more. But again, as a freshman playing on a big stage for the first time, I thought he looked like he belonged.
Yeah. He's maybe a little hesitant shooting, and I think he's just not quite got comfortable with that offensive game.
He's not got that confidence yet.
It's so early for 4 games in, and that's not what's expected. That's not really what's asked from him right now. So, when he needs it. We'll skip. Well, I guess we can briefly mention Denham Wojcik came in, and in the end of the first half played 3 minutes, 2 assists.
Yep, one really nice one.
One really nice one, yeah. So
to Cam Ward.
Yeah, he came in
For
and
dunk.
played nicely, just to give a little bit of rest to Jeremy Fears.
Everybody saw the floor.
And then and so the next 2, which Jesse McCullough, 8 points, 3 of 3 from the field, 2 for 2 from 3, and looked confident with it. I mean, didn't hesitate. A couple boards defensively.
Yep.
A lot of fouls, 3 fouls in just 9 minutes. But he
also hung in there defensively too.
I think he was, it was good.
I'm shocked it was only 9 minutes, like I said earlier, because it seemed like more. And I remember saying to you, like, boy, they're really rolling with Jesse tonight.
It was not about he was just
And
impactful minutes.
yeah, that shot he is confident. I said to you, you can back me up on this.
Yeah.
And look, taking too much from warm-ups. Come on.
And
But I said to you,
yeah.
I was watching him. I said, Jesse is dialed in.
Yes, it's true.
He could not miss from three, and that carried over to the game. That shows you what the potential is. Jesse McCullough is full stop a stretch post right now, and that will only get better. I liked what he did defensively. I liked how he competed against a team with a lot of size. He hung in there. I thought he acquitted himself well. I was really happy. It was kind of in a more subtle way. It wasn't quite as loud as Kurt Tang, but this was something of a breakout game for Jesse McCullough too, I think.
Yeah.
It's a game that he absolutely can look back on and take a ton from and feel very confident going into UD and everything else after that. Like you do that, you play that well against Kentucky on that stage, hey, there should be anything that scares you, rattles you.
And I think one thing that should really scare the Big Ten a little bit is Divine Ugochukwu. I mean, he played 8 minutes, 2 points, 1 for 2 from the field, had that really nice drive just for the layup. But he looked like he sort of figured things out as far as the offense a little bit more today. He looked more comfortable in there. He didn't attack as much as you said, Jeremy, and there's definitely clearly a difference. Defensively, he's not as good. I mean, but he's gotten better in only 4 games, which I think we should also point out Justin McCullough. I mean, this is only his 4th game.
Right.
He redshirted last year, so it's still different than practice squad.
I thought the first shift that Divine played was better than the second, but his first shift was 5-0 Michigan State. Second shift, I think they might have been on the negative slightly, maybe by a point or two. But I think overall, you look at it and say, you can point to this game and say that if you get that from Divine Ugochukwu, because Jeremy played, what he played, 31
minutes, yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
You can live with that. But to get there, you need this Divine Ugochukwu. You need him to at least be trustworthy and say, okay, we're not saying, Jesus, hold on for dear life for the next 4 minutes. Like you can feel it. And here's the thing, Divine, it should be noted, was not out there. It wasn't Divine and 3 starters.
And also he was just replacement for Jeremy. They didn't play together, I think, at all.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, it's a 1-for-1 swap. Because now you have with your 2 spot, you don't have to.
Right. Yep. But he was out there, if I remember correctly, the playing groups he was out there with included a lot of other reserves.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he was, he's got Cohen, he's got Jackson, and he's got Carson out there, and either Trey or Kurt. It wasn't like that. And, I know he was out there with the freshman some. He might have been out there with Jesse. I don't remember for sure.
But, I don't know.
But I think that also factors in, like, okay, you're not necessarily playing with the starters, and yet you're able to keep this thing humming well enough.
I'm good with plus minus so good.
Every single guy who saw the floor for Michigan State contributed.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
Chris Lee just said we broke Michigan State's curse, so we'll take credit for that. So anyone in Michigan State staff who's watching,
we'll take
the free tickets.
First one in the Champions Classic in Madison Square Garden, and I think it's 5 or 6 tries.
Yeah, so we'll take credit.
That's big.
We'll take credit for that. Yeah, absolutely.
And lifetime, they're still well under 500 in that building, but the wins tend to be really good ones.
Oh, and also we forgot to even talk about Cohen Carr. How can we forget?
Yes.
6 points, 2 for 6 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, which is pretty good.
Yep.
Split his free throws, not quite so good. 6 rebounds, all defensive, 2 assists, 3 turnovers, a block, a steal. Played 30 minutes. And I don't know. Just go ahead.
Well, look, I think overall he was pretty decent defensively. He had a couple of moments in the first half that I didn't think were great, but overall fine with what he did defensively. The rebounding, I would suspect, makes Izzo happy. 6 boards, that's what you want out of Cohen. I still think he's trying to find how he has to play to be the guy that they need him to be. Because look, let's not pretend. On nights where you're only getting 6 points from Cohen Carr, in general, you're probably not going to feel very good. You need more than that from him. Tonight they didn't because they shot the ball so well. So offensively it was okay. But Cohen's got and that's on Cohen, and that's also on his teammates. I mean, for as great a game as Jeremy Fears played, I'll bet you personally he's probably somewhere in his mind thinking about that, thinking, I got to find a way to get Cohen more than 6 points.
Yep.
And he'd be right. I mean, I love Jeremy Fears' game tonight, but that's true. That's a small thing. It's not all him, but I'm sure he takes some responsibility for that. And Cohen's got to take that. Cohen's got to find ways to be more assertive, to impact games the way that we know he can. Because 6 points is not enough from him.
Yeah.
I don't mean that to be overly negative. I'm still pretty happy with what he did overall. He found ways to contribute and make winning plays. But Cohen Carr is more than that.
Right. All right. Well, let's talk about gutters, Rod. We're here in New York, and they got gutters too, because they got all kinds of problems to leave. So, and they can't use the Brothers Gesture gutters. They can't get that service where people you can get.
Do we know that for sure? There might be a franchise.
There probably is, but they're not ones who advertise. They're not our brothers. Our brothers, Kurt and Greg, on the west and east side of the state. They'll definitely take care of you. You get 10% off your gutter work by just contacting them through our support page at tffinots.com/support. Make sure you head up there to our support page, get a hold of them. They'll take care of things. It's still plenty of time. Snow hasn't enough fallen yet. You can get them to clean out your gutters. They'll get on the ladders and take care of everything, so you don't have to. So make sure you get a hold of them today. And the player that they had us, that you said we should say to keep in the gutter, was Denzel Aberdeen. He ended with 10 points. He was 1 for 8 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3, 7 for 8 from the line, which is where he got all his damage. Had 1 offensive rebound, 2 assists, 3 turnovers, 3 steals, no blocks. I think you can safely say he was kept in the gutter.
4 personal fouls too.
And 4 fouls, yeah. Although I don't think it affected his minutes too much, but he definitely would.
But I think it affected some things about the way he could play, because at a certain point, he no longer even tried to really pressure Jeremy Fears. Rightly so, because Jeremy Fears would foul his ass out. We're going to return to this in a minute, so I won't belabor it. But suffice it to say, I would say on balance, gutter adjacent at the very least.
Yeah.
He needed to be limited. He came in averaging 16 points a game. They held him to 10. He was very inefficient. The free throws bailed him out. He was very inefficient from the floor. He did not do the job, sub 1-to-1 ratio, assist to turnovers. That's not what you need out of your point guard. And look, in fairness to this, he is not by nature a point guard. He is subbing in there because they have an injury problem.
And he wasn't brought in to be a point guard. He was brought in to score.
Play the 2.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But we're where we are. And if he's their point guard, that's something that other teams are going to look at this game and they're going to say, that's a chink in the armor. And either he or somebody else is going to have to figure it out, because I don't think they're likely, from what I've read, to get their point guard back this year.
Yeah.
I think the shoulder injury looks like it might be something. I know they're apparently considering surgery for Lowe.
Yeah.
But that is something that Mark Pope is going to have to deal with. He's going to have to try to manufacture this thing with spit and duct tape. And Aberdeen's got to be part of that equation. But he was not what they need tonight. But a lot of the reason he was not what they need tonight is because Jeremy Fears was busting his ass at both ends.
Well, someone mentioned they were on bulletin board. I'm not sure who it was, but basically that Kentucky bulletin boards, and that all the Kentucky fans are asking for Pope to get fired. So welcome to Kentucky basketball.
That's predictable.
Park Pope. It's year 2.
Yeah.
If you're not winning national titles right away, there's something wrong with you. It's all right. So let's move on then to the Swedish Squad of Grand Rapids and Who Cleans the Glass Best, brought to you again by Swedish Squad of Grand Rapids. This is I think this is a great example of when things are going well. Rod and I are in the stands, and I'm like, and the last 2 minutes was all about who's going to get that last
We really were like those gambling degenerates.
We were. We're like it's a prop bet or something.
Have somebody with plus 14.5, and they're sweating the last 2 minutes of the game. It's a blowout.
It was, yes.
It was exactly that scenario. Michigan State was up 20, and we started looking at it, and I said, well, wait a minute. I've only got Jackson on the floor.
And I thought Jackson had more.
You had Carr
and Ward, yes.
And then Carr and Kohler both go out. You've got one guy out there. I have nobody.
I just need one
And
rebound
you
to
need one
tie.
rebound to tie.
Yeah.
And what happened?
Went off Ward's hand with about a minute to go.
Twice.
Yeah. He was
He
close.
touched it twice.
And then they made all the free throws, so he couldn't even get the rebound off
Right.
the free throw. The fan behind us like, what? You
yeah,
guys are really grinding.
Kansas fan, and he didn't
He couldn't figure
understand.
out why.
He's like, you guys are up 20. I think he got it. I said, no.
That's not what we're talking. Then he thought that was hilarious. So anyway, so you managed to tie it up, so it's now 2-2. You Kohler. Right. It wasn't Kohler. Had I picked anybody, I mean, had I picked Fears, I'd have won it. Had I picked Cooper instead of
you
Ward,
made it.
I would.
You made the mistake.
I had the opportunity
from Carson,
but you know.
But it's as we've been talking about, we've now, as opposed to last year, it really does feel like there's the potential for it to be competitive.
Yeah.
Every night, because there's so much balance other than Jackson.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And there will be nights like this where Jackson, for whatever reason, only has like 6 boards.
Because other people getting it. It's not like they struggle rebounding, right? It was just
Right.
So of course that's brought to you by the Squeeze Squad in Grand Rapids. They can clean your windows. They'll do a great, fantastic job. Make sure you reach out to them now before it gets too cold. Like before they'll get out there unless it's like sub-zero. So get a hold of them. They can take care of things. You get 15% off by mentioning Final Four, just like with the Brothers Just Your Gutters. Head over to the support page at tffinots.com. They'll take care of things. They're the nicest people that can take care of the interior, exterior windows. Rod can't use them because he's too far away. You're in the Detroit area. But anywhere in Grand Rapids adjacent, they can take care of you, and they'll do a really nice job. All right, so that brings us to 5 keys of the game, brought to you by Nudge Printing. I'm wearing my Nudge sweatshirt today. It was great. Actually, I've got my Nudge shirt underneath. So I've got a double Nudge today. The most comfortable, and it was great for walking around. I don't know, we walked like 10 miles in New York today. It felt like 10 miles.
Let me get you some math.
I did 2 miles when you were just taking a break. So
you did extra. You did more.
I walked the High Line too. So because I've never been to New York, so it's my opportunity to see the city for the first time.
I did about 10 miles. So that means you probably did about 12.
12. Yeah. Okay. And then good thing we had a train. Otherwise, we'd have really been in trouble. But the subway saved us a bit today too. So Nudge Printing, they have the Tom frickin' Izzo free drawing. So go to nudgeprinting.com/win. I can just enter your email address and you can get entered in the drawing. It costs nothing. We'll do that drawing before the North Carolina game. So we'll announce the winner in the North Carolina game and then we'll move on. So it's a grin, super comfortable hoodie. You'll love it. And it's nothing. I have no idea how many people have entered the drawing. So maybe you've been one of 2 people. So these good chance of winning. So head on over to nudgeprinting.com/win. And while you're there, you can pick up any other Nudge Printing gear. It is getting close to Christmas. It's time to start thinking about those things. Get them done now before you get the crunch. Don't be a dummy like me and wait to realize Christmas is 3 days away and now it's too late to get the shipping taken care of. So head over to nudgeprinting.com. 20% off. You mentioned the coupon code, which is TFF. That's TIFNOTS. All right. So the first key of the game is Madison Square Gardens. Already talked about you and I broke the curse. So it is now over. Michigan State wasn't going for Madison Square Gardens, the Champions Classic. They have, of course, as we mentioned, won before, and it is the world's most famous arena.
Jesus, it's been a while since I've been to a game at MSG, but they will not quit hammering you over the head with this is the Mecca of basketball, the most famous arena in the world. I'm going to reiterate, and I say this as someone who is a native New Yorker. I was literally born in this city, so I get to say it. They're full of shit. It's an arena. It's a fine arena. I have nothing negative to say about the experience, but all that stuff, please. All that said, it was a great arena for one night.
Yeah, they had no troubleshooting this time.
Yeah, they were dialed in, and we had a blast. But I think it was, look, these things are all, none of these guys, well, a handful, maybe two of these guys played in that game against Kansas State, Kohler and Cooper. I think that's it.
Probably, yeah. Those probably too, yeah.
So not much. I guess last year's team played there and beat Rutgers.
Yeah.
So they've been in the building for some of them, maybe half the team. But, a big game in that building, the results have not, more often than not, they've not gone well for Michigan State. We were having a conversation on the way out with a Michigan State fan. And he was saying exactly the same thing. I don't remember if we got it in the preview or not, but you and I talked about it. I know I said this to you. I said, Michigan State is obviously, and this is, I'm not Nostradamus for saying this, they're due for a breakout shooting the ball.
Yeah.
And if it was anywhere else, I would absolutely pick that to happen because you can feel it. It's like, it's got to happen. Except that they were playing the game in this building.
Yeah.
And they've not traditionally shot the ball very well there. So I was not a believer that, oh, it's automatically going to happen. And I avoided it.
I think the important thing to remember too is they may not have played well this play, but every time they play Madison Square Garden, they're playing Champions Classic,
Great
they're playing Duke,
opponents.
Kentucky, Kansas, or you're playing NCAA tournament. You're playing a good team. You're playing UConn. Only now that they've been playing Rutgers is it been sort of helpful that they're playing kind of lousy.
The one big win that I can think of, there was a major statement win that happened there, was in the Sweet 16 against Virginia. The same, unfortunately, they followed it up losing to a UConn team. They should have blasted into the sun.
Yeah.
And they went on to steal a national championship, one of the flukiest. And I'm saying that in the home of a UConn crazy.
Right. Yeah.
But the fluke title that Michigan State should have gotten that year with that team. But anyway, they did have that one game, which was just an all-time knockdown, drag-out slugfest against that number 1 seed Virginia team. That's the one game I can remember against a big-time opponent, big-time atmosphere that they pulled it out. But generally speaking, like we said, they never won in the Champions Classic in MSG before tonight.
Until we were there.
They exercised a lot of demons, let's just put it that way. For the program, not so much for these players, because again, these guys didn't really have anything to do with that.
Yeah, honestly, there's not no one plays long enough with this long curse, right? I mean, I guess if they play long enough with the team 4 years, you probably play at least one Champions Classic you might play an arena twice.
You play one or two, yeah.
Yeah.
You definitely played one and you might play two.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the second key to the game, which is the boards. This is one that you said if they had a decisive edge, they would, whoever had a decisive edge would be important winning. Well, Michigan State had a huge edge. So the overall rebounding edge, 42-28. They dominated that. Michigan State had 10 offensive rebounds for a 31.5% offensive rebounding rate, which is okay. It's acceptable.
Good.
It's,
30 is, just for listeners who may not follow this as close as we do, I would say 30 is kind of your break-even point. You're on the plus side of 30, it's positive. You're below 30, it's at least a slight negative. And it goes down from there.
Right.
And the way you
and the way you calculate that is how many offensive rebounds you get divided by how many shots that you hit. So if you miss 30 shots.
So what percentage of the misses did you offensively?
So they missed 32 and they got 10 of those rebounds, something like that.
Yeah.
Now, Kentucky, on the other hand, so this would be the other side for Michigan State as far as they were dominant defensively rebound. Kentucky had 6 offensive rebounds for a 16.2% offensive rebounding rate, which is abysmal. And so Michigan State just totally destroyed them there. And so that was where the edge came.
You could probably look at two areas above all others that contributed to this being a blowout. One, obviously, was 3-point shooting. Not just how productive MSU was, but the difference in efficiency between the two teams. Stark difference. The other is the rebounding edge. This was on paper, this looked to be a very competitive rebounding matchup. Kentucky, not quite as good as Michigan State, but also like Michigan State, very good at both ends. Michigan State did enough damage on its offensive glass to where you say, good performance. Now, we saw them absolutely obliterate Arkansas.
Yeah.
Like a 54% offensive rebound rate.
Right, yeah.
It was ridiculous. Always knew that was highly unlikely to happen here. 31% is fine. It's doing the job. It's what a good offensive rebounding team should do against a good defensive rebounding team. So you're for me, getting close to being satisfied with that. But the job Michigan State did on the defensive glass, that's where the rubber hit the road in this one. And you do that to that Kentucky team with that much size, that many athletes. Remember, smallest guy they put on the floor was 6'4" tonight. They had a lot of size out there. They got some athleticism, as you saw, all the pieces, and a track record of early in the season. Didn't matter. Michigan State absolutely shoved them.
Yeah.
And that the fact that Kentucky got nothing in the way of second chances, they had to have that because they shot so poorly.
Yeah.
They had to have that, and they got nowhere close. I thought Michigan State's discipline on the defensive glass was incredible. Times it just literally, well, they had 5 offensive rebounds.
6. I think I
6.
went late, but yeah.
Yeah. Just every time you saw a shot go up, you knew there was a pretty good chance they were going to miss it. And you also speaking for myself, I just felt like, yeah, Michigan State's going to clear the boards because they're clearing everything.
Yeah. Right.
And it even felt like the few that Kentucky got, some of those just felt like they were fluky. Ball kicks out off somebody's hands.
Yeah.
And they get it. It never felt like, oh, they got somebody just kicking ass.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. Whereas at the other end, Michigan State had times where they kicked a little ass.
Yep. I agree. All right. So the third key to the game was point guard. And I think you probably think there's a difference here. Where you Kentucky with Denzel Everdeen, who we already talked about, who was kept gutter adjacent, we'll say.
It was.
And Fears only had 7 points.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, this was decisive. I mean, decisive. Now, again, I want to be fair. Aberdeen, not a point guard by trade. But you got to line them up and play, right? And we said going in, all right, this guy is not a point guard by trade. He's their leading scorer, though. He's been a solid playmaker, and they think he can probably handle this. And I do think, if as I suspect, it's going to have to be him and Johnson kind of getting it done at that position for them. I think he'll be okay. I think he'll have better nights than this. But I think part of that is because he's not going to be going up against Jeremy Fears again, unless we see him in March. Jeremy Fears is just, besides the obvious things he does on the court, he's just, and every time you see him play, and you see it, we don't always see it on television as clearly, but he is just an irritant.
Yeah,
He's in guys' heads. You are going to have to be incredibly mentally tough. Like, I don't think he's going to be able to get Braden Smith out of his head. I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah.
And Braden Smith has been through it. He's smarter than that. Bruce Thornton, I think, is probably mature enough. He can handle it. I don't know about a lot of these other guys in the league, even good guards, because this kid, he is something else in terms of his gamesmanship. I pointed out to you, and he does this a lot. There was an early situation where Kentucky was shooting free throws.
Yeah.
And the kid shot the first one. I don't remember whether he made it or missed it.
He made it, yeah. They almost made all the free throws.
But Fears steps in right as he gets the ball. He steps in front of him to ask Michigan State's players to switch sides of the lane that they're on. That's gamesmanship. He's doing that to screw with the shooter. He just does it all. And I thought coming into this game, that was a spot that Michigan State might very well have a decisive advantage based on a lot of different factors. Who Jeremy is, Aberdeen kind of still figuring it out, being out of position.
Yeah.
And boy, did that come through.
Yeah. Well, you take advantage of the event, when you have those.
And he just, at the end of the game, I mean, I just kept yelling and, bait him. Because you could just see, before Aberdeen got his fourth foul, I could see it coming for about 3 possessions.
Oh, yeah.
Where you just knew he's gonna get him to foul.
Someone commented here that King Claw, he fears talking from the first tip on the handshake line, so all the way to the handshake line. So that pretty much sums it up.
And I know that there are some who don't like that aspect of things. They'd rather guys just keep a stoic calm, and that's fine. I personally love that kind of emotion. And when Michigan State's been really, really good, like when they've been national championship good, meaning the year they won it with this group in the Izzo era, and the years where they've been really close, for the most part, they've had that kind of personality. They've had a Travis Walton. They've had a Draymond Green.
Yeah. The
Cassius team didn't really have that. They didn't have that kind of character, and they were there. In 19, they could have won it.
Sure.
But, man, I love having that kind of guy. I will admit it. And that's one of many reasons I absolutely love watching Jeremy Fears play basketball.
All right, so the fourth key to the game was the transition. It's actually interesting looking through these keys here. I think a lot of them are not, Michigan State actually lost, but not enough that made a difference, obviously. So transition, Kentucky had the edge here, 16-8, and it was 8-0 for a while, and then I think they was even up after
bogus number. And I know I say this on occasion. Here's an example. The one of the two shots at Jeremy McPherson, I think it was his first basket from the floor. He takes the ball in the inbound, continuous motion, never stops dribbling, never walking, goes right through Kentucky for a layup. In my mind, that is a transition basket. Was not given as one because at that point Michigan State had still had 0 transition.
Right, yeah, even after that, yes.
How can that not be a transition basket? So this stuff is kind of art more than science, I guess, is a kind way of putting it. Whatever. We know why Kentucky, it was kind of similar to the Arkansas game that Kentucky got some transition points off bad MSU turnovers or a situation or two where they took a shot and it just the way it played out left them vulnerable. I'm not making excuses. Your transition defense has to be better than that. And Kentucky's transition defense, they're going to be happy about, I guess, one of the few things they'd be happy about because they really had a hard time against Louisville. And it was something Mark Pope talked about. To only give up 8 fast break points to Michigan State, whether that shorted Michigan State a few or not, I think it did. But still, I think they have to feel okay about that.
Yeah, I mean, Kentucky had more fast break points.
There's
no question.
Yeah, it was. Absolutely. I'm not saying anything.
Right. All right, so fifth and final key to the game was free throw line. And so you can look at this 2 different ways. Michigan State was 8 of 10 from the line, so 80%. So that was good, but only 10. That's not so good.
Yeah.
Kentucky, really, the only reason the game was sort of close, even though they lost by 17, was they had 19 of 22. So they were really good from the free throw line.
So on the Michigan State end of things, though, we talked about that at halftime. So, boy, I think at that point they had either 2 or 4 attempts, not much in the first half. And as we both kind of acknowledged, so, well, yeah, it's because they're hitting threes and they're shooting them.
Yeah.
Michigan State was not, and look, you can't complain about it because we saw the game we saw. But in the first half especially, Michigan State was not playing the way we've typically seen them play in terms of being intent on just getting the ball in the basket, putting the defense under pressure, and forcing them to foul. In fact, Michigan State never got into the penalty. The only free throws they attempted weren't shooting fouls, if I remember correctly, in the first half. Second half, they were a little better at it. They did get in the penalty. But it was the way this game went. It just was not a game where Michigan State was. Now, they ended up, I believe, slightly winning points in the paint. It was close.
Mm-hmm.
Last I saw it was a 28-24 advantage, and it was I think I'm assuming they still ended up with the edge. So it doesn't mean they completely.
Yeah, it's 30-24. So
30-24 MSU. Yeah, so they had the advantage there. And normally you would think that that's indicative of, well, it probably means the free throw line was fairly even. Kentucky, remember, Kentucky came into this game, this went completely against type. They came into this game not getting to the line very much, and they had, 24 free throw attempts?
22, yeah.
22. Yeah, that's kind of average-ish, but that's better than they've been doing.
Yeah.
They were sub 200, and they've been fouling people a ton. They did not do that.
Well, and that was maybe a problem. Because, I mean, I think they were close.
Yeah.
They weren't even
Their
close.
defense,
Their
I will
defense
tell
was
you,
pretty leaky.
I don't know how it looked live, but their defense, especially in the first half, when MSU had the 17-point lead, was terrible.
Yeah.
And Michigan State had a lot to do with that. I'm not denigrating what MSU did at all, but Kentucky is not a good defensive team right now. I know they checked out very well in Ken Palm. They are not a good defensive team.
But they played one real team.
Right.
Now
and they got beat.
Yeah. Now
and they got blasted for about 80% of that game, and they came back late to make it look respectable.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight they got blasted and they couldn't do that. So
maybe they should fire Pope.
Yeah, I understand why their fans are disappointed.
Yeah.
I get that because it's 2 losses where you could fairly include the Louisville game with this one. They really haven't been competitive against the only 2 teams they played with Pummels. So they're going to have to find a path here pretty soon, or the natives are going to get really restless.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't think they're going to be very happy if Kentucky's not at the top of the SEC.
No.
I mean, I'm sure they never. That's a minimum. You've got to be.
Yeah, you got to
winning it or
competing,
just about winning
for the league title.
Yes, and I don't know what they had last year. Last year they were not that.
They were 24-12.
Yeah, so
overall they had a good start. Remember, they beat Duke in this event last year, and then But they had injuries. They had point guard problems with injuries last year too, and that had an impact.
Yeah. All right. So summing things up, aside from having a great time in New York, especially since they won, Michigan State looked good. Curse is broken. Yes, we'll take free tickets if you win the Spartans. Get a hold of us. And then I don't know. I think it's.
I want to ask you. I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
I want to ask now that you've watched 3 games in the flesh with me.
Yes.
Your thoughts on the experience of that?
I think so. If you're listening, you're wondering what's Rod like in the stands. Yes, that's exactly what it's like. Yeah, I feel like I don't need to say anything because I don't need to say it because you're very demonstrative.
Yeah.
No, look, I don't mind. I think it's kind of fun, and you're nothing like. I had the heckler who was beside me for so many years at Michigan State at Breslin Center, and he was just like wrong about everything.
Yeah.
And that was just irritating. So the fact that you're not wrong about stuff really makes it a lot easier. Yeah, no, I appreciate the passion. It's fine with me. No, I do enjoy talking in between and sort of go over the game stuff. So, but it's been fun. It's been a good time.
This was an easy one.
This was
last year.
Yeah, last year was,
USC. It was just such a blah game, and it wasn't fun. UCLA was intense, and we had, even though there were a ton of Michigan State people there, we had some vociferous UCLA fans right in front of us. So I felt like I got going in that one. It was bordering.
but that was an exciting game.
It was, which is why it was that intense. But it was bordering on. It could have gone wrong, and then it didn't. Tonight, we didn't really have Kentucky fans immediately around us, but
it wasn't that full. Like
no,
Madison
60% maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
And even the other side of the arena was very empty. The one behind the benches, or not. I mean, across.
I think that's not uncommon for this event because you're playing in pro arenas, so they're big.
Yeah,
and you're generally speaking like
the fan bases aren't here.
Chicago and Indianapolis is a little different because Michigan State certainly can show up to those.
Right. They played Atlanta, so I mean,
and Kentucky, especially for Indianapolis, that's easy for them too. So I guess Kansas, Chicago is not crazy for them, but yeah, it's in that sense, it's not. But I'll tell you something. The thing I do like about this event is it does feel like they're big games. Everybody knows that, but yet it doesn't. And I would say this about every time I've been. It doesn't feel the way sometimes like I know people who have been to MSU tournament games against Louisville, and Louisville fan base just not it. Hard to deal with. And Michigan State's gotten better of them generally.
Yeah,
I think they're 2-1. It was 2-1 in tournament games, but it's not good. And I know all these other fan bases. I would say, especially Kentucky, has a reputation in some quarters that I didn't experience that. I find this to be, and maybe other people have different experiences, but my personal experience is I find this to be win or lose. I've been on both sides of it at Champions Classics before. I find it to be a pretty good-natured event, and I think that there's a mutual respect between all the programs because we've all beaten each other.
Yeah,
and we've all, if I remember correctly, we've all beaten each other in big games like NCAA tournament games. MSU's beaten Duke twice in big tournament games. They've beaten Kansas in tournament games before. Sweet 16, Cam Lucas. They beat Kentucky in 2 Elite Eights and vice versa.
Right.
We've lost to all of them in tournament games, right? So maybe not Kentucky. I don't think they've lost to Kentucky. I don't think it's lost to Kentucky.
I don't remember them losing, but
I don't think they have. I think they're 2-0, both in the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm missing one. But you get my point.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of engenders, that's one of the reasons why I think it's a really good event, besides the level check it gets you and all of that. It's that then again, people may differ, they may have different experiences, and that's totally valid. But for me, that's how I view it. It feels like what it should be, which is, hey, these are elite programs year in, year out. And It doesn't mean the end of the world if you lose.
Well, that's key too. It's for early in the season, so it doesn't matter. And you're playing good teams, so if you lose, it's not the end of the world.
Right. And you just kind of roll with it. And it's, I mean, look, the Kentucky fans, I'm sure were unhappy, but on the way out, I wasn't hearing people cursing and so,
I think they're mad at Pope.
Yeah.
I think they're more self-critical than anything. Like they're not going to rag on you.
Right.
I don't think any of the, because none of the teams are natural rivals, aside from all being good teams, right?
Right. It's rivalries in the sense that you're playing each other a fair amount in games that really, really matter.
If North Carolina's there, then there's going to be more animosity in North Carolina.
That would be the case.
But
I honestly, I'll tell you, when MSU played North Carolina in the title game in 09, and again, it was Ford Field, so Michigan State had, 90% of the crowd. But the North Carolina fans I was around, I found to be very respectful. I think that generally speaking, especially if you get out of the Big Ten, the respect for Michigan State's program and for Izzo is more unabashed. It's not cut by, I know that there are Purdue fans, for example, who really respect Tom Izzo, but there are some that are jackasses, right? Have jealousy issues, all that stuff. And we know what the jackass is down the road, which I want to repeat this story. I was telling my sister about this earlier.
About the guy who...
Yeah. So we were on the street this afternoon, and because we went into Manhattan, had a lot of time to kill, but we weren't coming back here. Both Eric and I were in our Michigan State finery. And we're on like 9th Avenue. And we had to stop walking for a minute because I got a call from a heating contractor. Right? Changing the
I wonder who it was.
So I'm on the phone and I'm talking, but I notice a guy walking by us and he turns and says something, Eric. He's wearing a Red Wings hat.
Yep.
But I couldn't hear what he said.
We can't get eye contact. He recognized, he saw what I'm wearing. And the way he's looking at me, like, oh, he must be a Michigan person, like someone from Michigan.
Yeah. So
turns out
I get my phone call ends and I said to Eric, I said, what'd that guy say to you? What'd he say?
Go Blue.
If there's anything, man, and I'm stereotyping here, but getting a look at this guy, I'm thinking the old sheepskin probably doesn't read University of Michigan on it. It was just indicative of everything about that sorry ass fan base. I've never in my life, spotted someone out in public wearing Michigan gear and felt compelled to go up to them and say, go green. It's never occurred to me to do it.
No.
I doubt it's ever occurred to most of you listening to this.
But
that's who they are.
Yeah.
Even in New York City, that's who they are.
Well, I told you this, and I don't think I mentioned the podcast. I was at the San Jose State game. There's a Michigan fan. Yeah. And I know, wow, how do you know there's a Michigan fan at the San Jose State game? He was completely decked out in Michigan gear. For San Jose State,
it's the saddest.
It's like, why would you even go? I don't understand what
the saddest commentary on one's self-worth and one's self-identification possible. It's pathetic. But this is who they are.
All right. So those are three Michigan comments. Before we go, JJ McKay, from our friend in the Keweenaw Peninsula, asked, how far do you think Michigan State will move up from number 17 after this win? Well, you turned to me and said right away, oh, they'll be top 10 now.
Well, I didn't say I definitively believe that. I said I think it's possible. Yeah. It kind of depends on what happens.
Yeah, the teams have to lose and stuff like that.
But I will say this. I think it's also possible that Michigan State is going to jump teams that don't lose based on this.
That's probably true.
I think they will.
Yeah.
Because, again, not just that they won, but the way they won.
Yeah, right. It was definitive.
That will, if they're not in the top 10, it'll be higher than 17, provided they don't slip on a banana peel at the end of the week, right?
Right.
They're going to be higher than 17. I don't know where they're going to check in, but I'm going to bet that if they're not in the top 10, they're knocking on the door. And truthfully, as I saw somebody, John Fanta, I think, tweeted this, and this number is based on where teams were ranked at the time the game occurred. Michigan State is one of two teams. I think we say this?
Already,
we already covered top. Who's beaten the two top 15 opponents. We think Arizona might be the other one. But that's kind of it's kind of hard at this stage of the season to look at a team that's done that and say, yeah, they don't belong in the top 10.
Well, Dom had us, and if you watched the bracketology last week, he had Michigan State as a 4 seed. So it'll be interesting to see
Fair.
what he thinks they're going to be like.
That would have been fair. And I had no problem with 17 coming
Yeah.
into this game. I just think you play a game like this,
Yeah.
probably for the nothing that it
You've
matters.
done something. Yeah.
The most important thing out of this is that you want a game that's going to go on your resume, and you hope and you still are inclined to think it will matter. It will mean something come March. That's the big, and you've proven to yourself, individuals and as a team, this is what you can be. And that Michigan State team we saw tonight, line them up against anybody, and I'll take my chances. I'm not saying that makes them a favorite or even a favorite, but their potential, if you are a Michigan State Spartan now, you've seen it. You cannot question. This team has the capability. And one more note before we go. There was another thing we talked about that I think is worth mentioning on our long walk back. I think it's possible. We need a lot more data to know for sure, but I think it is possible that we're going to look back at those last 12 or 13 minutes
Yeah.
in Connecticut, in that exhibition game against UConn, and say that was the point that this group realized what's necessary to compete against legitimate opponents. Because for about 27 minutes, they kind of sleptwalked through Bowling Green. They were again sleepwalking through the majority of the UConn game, but the last 12 or 13 minutes, they made that a game. Jackson Kohler kind of took over with his energy, and it felt like, okay, the light bulb went on. This is how hard you got to play. This is how you have to compete in order to hang with teams like this. And now, since then, we're seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying it's been perfectly a hockey stick. San Jose State game was not great. 8 in spots was not great, but the two big time opponents where you had to bring that energy to get a win, they did it. So to be determined, but I'm calling that shot early. That might be a stretch of play that we point at later on in the season and say, that's the moment they figured it out. Which if it comes to that, I think you've really got to feel that was a great move.
Yep.
To play that game.
Thanks, Danny Hurley.
Right. Thank you to Danny Hurley.
We should have to sit in his household too.
Right. I have to. I mean, my nephew's middle name is Calhoun, so that's where we're at.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there. We'll be back in our studio. So if the audio's a little bit wonky, that's why, obviously, because we're remote. So we'll be back in the regular studio in a couple of days for the preview for UD Mercy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so until then, Final Four is on the schedule. Go Green.